Hey yo, how's it going there, Ripple fanatics? Welcome back to another Ripple video. We did cover some of this information in our Ripple video the other day that was really more specialized on the actual deal taking place with Western Union and what that meant. But today we're actually looking more into the Ripple confirmation that trillions of dollars are going to be moving through their market. We're going to look at a couple interviews that we have, and we're going to analyze what they're saying. Then at the end of the video, after the interviews, we'll do a price speculation, price analysis, look at predictions for where the price could go. We have a lot of this information already presented in our last video where we did about Ripple and Western Union partnership for the XRP system. So we're not going to go into too great detail about this specifically. We will put this article in the description window so you guys can watch it, and then we're going to move straight into these interviews, listening to the CEO of Ripple talk about these technologies emerging and what the newscasters expect. They ask some pretty good questions. These interviews might be old to you. You might have seen them before, but go ahead and stay through to the end of the video. After the interview, we're going to look at the numbers they use as a benchmark and do some speculation about the price of Ripple.
All right, coming up, we're going to measure the outlook for blockchain services under the Trump presidency next. This is Bloomberg. All right, now back to the Goldman Sachs Technology Conference in San Francisco. Blockchain, big at this year's conference. Among the most important players, Ripple. The San Francisco-based company uses blockchain to settle financial transactions between some of the world's biggest banks. Caroline Hyde is still there, standing with a guy named Brad Garlinghouse, who's also a former AOL executive and author of the infamous Yahoo Peanut Butter Memo. Caroline?
He is a man that you know well, Corey, and I'm just sat opposite him right now. Of course, Brad, we're just hearing about potentially the fact that all of this, when we're looking at blockchain, is potentially in hype mode. Are we overhyping blockchain? When does it become a part of everyday lexicon? When do all banks adopt it?
Well, I think there's parts of what's going on with blockchain that are overhyped. It's not necessarily a solution for everything, but there are examples where it's a perfect use case. It's a perfect solution for payments, for example. You have two people trying to settle a transaction without the risk of the central counterparty. You could do that with blockchain today. Ripple has been fortunate. We now have 10 production accounts. We announced the third largest bank in India last month, as well as the largest bank in the Middle East going into production.
What about new clients? What about international expansion? What about being adopted en masse? Is that something that you foresee, or will you not be able to get into all banks because they'll see a conflict of interest here?
Well, we work with about 90 banks worldwide today. We've announced 10 of those production contracts. It's certainly there's about 8,000 SWIFT-enabled banks and almost 20 to 30,000 banks around the world, so we've got a long way to go. But we also think that we're clearly solving a real problem around cross-border payments. It's amazing how much friction there is and how much time it takes to send a payment that's your own money.
Don't I know it? I'm a Brit in the US. It's painful.
Well, I make the joke, and even on your show, it's easier to send $10,000 by taking it with you on a plane than it is to send it through the banking system. We're solving that, and I think in the future, you're really going to see the banking sector compete with the Alibabas and the Amazons and the Googles, and they need to be able to compete on a level playing field with next generation technology like blockchain solutions.
Interesting that you're talking about competing with some of the tech giants there. I want to understand how this competitive landscape works in your mind's eye, because you mentioned SWIFT-enabled banks there. Is SWIFT your key competitor? What about the likes of the startups that I'm seeing grow in the United Kingdom, in Germany? I mean, TransferWise comes to mind. That's the way I can send payments very swiftly. How does it all work for you?
Well, so we view TransferWise as solving a great problem that the banks should be solving. And so really TransferWise is a potential partner or customer of ours. When we look at the payment stack, a lot of things are happening at the top level of the kind of application layer of that stack, but the infrastructure is all the same. Yeah. Even cool, innovative things like Apple Pay. It's really just a different way to swipe your card, and everything underneath that wave of the phone is the existing infrastructure. Our view is if we really want to unlock innovation throughout payments, we have to reset the rails, we have to reset the infrastructure, and that's what we're focused on.
And is blockchain being adopted en masse by banks? Do you think what's stopping them? What's holding them back? Are there worries?
We've been really fortunate because I think we're solving a clear use case that is a pain point for their customers. We're getting a lot of adoption, a lot of activity. It takes time, of course. Banks have a lot of other IT projects that go on internally. But we've been fortunate that we're not seeing banks say, no, we're not interested in that. We see banks say, we're very interested in that. Let's talk about Q3 or Q4 as opposed to necessarily right now.
What about Ripple? Remain independent? People eyeing you up? Have you had any offers?
We've had a great run, and certainly as I think blockchain has become more hyped, frankly, we get more and more interest and attention. But right now we're focused on the customer. And if we can deliver on that, continue to deliver more customers and solve more of their problems for their customers, we'll be in a good place regardless of how we choose to see the future unfold.
I mean, I know you don't deploy Bitcoin. That's one type of cryptocurrency that uses a blockchain. Bitcoin, is that overhyped? Is the price about to come smashing back down?
Well, two thoughts on that. One is we're almost the opposite end of some of the Bitcoin community. Some of the Bitcoin community have said down with banks, down with governments, and down with fiat currency. We take a view that banks are going to be at the heart of this internet of value, where value can move the way information moves today. We think governments aren't going away, and with fiat currency, while there's a role for digital assets like Bitcoin or like a digital asset we use called XRP, we don't think that's the end-all be-all. And so we are solving a liquidity challenge for banks with XRP. The price of Bitcoin has been really volatile, and of course, when there's volatility, banks don't love that. Well, the only people who like that are speculators and traders. We think to solve that institutional use case that we're focused on, we want a nice stable asset, and the asset we work with is called XRP.
Let's move away a little bit into your history, into your past. We had Corey Johnson just talking about the Peanut Butter Manifesto, the legendary piece that came out, about a decade ago, all about your previous employer, Yahoo, the fact that potentially it spread itself too thinly. What was this company? 10 years on, changed?
Yeah, it's amazing to me that it's been 10 years. I try not to imagine that I've gotten that much older, but I think what I felt like 10 years ago, and I very much was a passionate Yahoo employee, loved my experience there. I felt like Yahoo increasingly was spreading itself thin, and that what were we trying to be the best in the world at? And whether you're Yahoo or frankly any other company, I think you have to understand what your true north is. What is the primary problem you're solving for your customers? And I think Yahoo is trying to be a lot of things. Were they a search company, a mail company, a media company, or an advertising company? And they were okay or maybe kind of good at a lot of those, but not great at any of them. And then Google comes in and steals search, and other companies come in and steal mail, and other companies come in and steal media. And I think Yahoo could have and probably should have been more focused and more concentrated about what they wanted to be great at for their customers.
And now another company comes in and steals Yahoo, buying it, Verizon. Potentially, it's not even gone through. Do you think this deal will go through? Do you think they'll be able to get value from what Yahoo's consumer base is?
I think it'll probably go through. I think obviously it's been a rough ride for the Yahoo team, and they've had some security breaches that have caused some turbulence there. But I think there is great synergy in putting Yahoo and AOL together. It's something that Tim Armstrong has been excited about for a long time. And I think that there's real value to be created there. And Tim did a great job with AOL, and now part of Verizon. But I think he can continue that by putting those two assets together.
Two assets that you previously worked for. It's great to have you on. Thank you so much. A great conversation. None other than Brad Garlinghouse.
Joining us now, Brad Garlinghouse is the CEO of the cryptocurrency developer Ripple. Ripple's XRP token has surged more than 500% this year. Brad, nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, just tell people what exactly Ripple does, because it's not just the currency, also you're very involved in blockchain.
Absolutely. So Ripple sells a blockchain technology to banks and payment providers and other financial institutions to do real-time settlement between banks. So today, if Morgan wanted to send $10,000 to London right now, the fastest way for her to do that is to drive to Newark or JFK and fly it there. Our view is, in a world of the internet, you can stream video from the space station, you should be able to do real-time settlement between banks, and we sell technology to banks to do that.
And the banks are getting on board with this because they know there's a lot of paper pushing and also a lot of money attached to those settlements.
For sure. So we have over 100 banks working with Ripple today around the world. I think the vast majority of banks, like 99.9% of banks, actually are paying other banks, the global money center banks like JP Morgan or Citibank, to make those settlements. So a lot of the banks are very excited about democratizing how these global payments flow.
There's a belief that, you could transform the global payment system over time, although then the alternative argument is you need a centralized. You can't have it decentralized, that it actually benefits from efficiencies. I would assume you come down in the latter.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think anytime you can do something without that central counterparty, you're going to reduce friction, which is measured by time, cost, speed. So by removing that central counterparty, going direct from point to point, you can skip going from the Bank of David to the Bank of Morgan to the Bank of Mike. You just go directly to the Bank of Mike.
So if the immediate opportunity is efficiencies in this area of the actual kind of nuts and bolts sort of plumbing of the financial system, how does that relate to the value of the Ripple tokens or of the Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies? They're taking on a separate life, it seems, from the future of adoption of this technology.
It's a great point, and I think one of the things we all have to remember is that the value of a token over the long term is really going to be derived by its utility. What problem is it solving? How big is that problem? How many customers do you have? There's no question there's a lot of hype in this system, and I don't actually think that's a good thing. For Ripple, we use this digital asset called XRP to settle liquidity needs between banks. So today there's $27 trillion parked at different banks around the world so they can make payments between each other. Our view is you can use a digital asset like XRP to do that in real time. Because XRP has been so efficient, it settles a transaction about 3 seconds compared to Bitcoin.
So it just passes through that currency for that period of time.
That's correct.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.
Wow, the CEO of Ripple really bringing home some real points as to the possibilities of the XRP use and adoption. But again, as he was saying, before we even get into the price prediction, he did say XRP's price is directly tied to its utility or how much it's going to be used. And as we know, a lot of banks, over 100 banks, are using the X Current system, but not that many have moved over to the X Rapid system yet. So what does that mean looking forward for XRP? Also, looking at the video we did 2 days ago for XRP, we did have some people speculating that Ripple itself was just a trash coin. And if you remember the beginning of the interview, what Brad is saying is that his attempts to keep Ripple tied to the prior financial infrastructure that we have is why he's lost the support of the traditional crypto community. I remember someone did make a comment yesterday, wait, I thought cryptocurrency was to eradicate the banks, and I initially thought that was the case as well, and that was what brought my attention to cryptocurrencies and got me excited about using them. But potentially as Ripple gained strength and familiarity and it gained market exposure as well as it gained trust from the current financial institution, Ripple has placed itself to be a real crypto killer in a sense, and I feel maybe even now we're at a place where there's a silent war going on between Ripple and Bitcoin and the rest of the altcoins, where enough money funneling into Ripple could easily kill the rest of the crypto community, and the money that's funneling into Ripple literally just goes into the traditional banking system. And this is what people do find irritating or possibly not beneficial for the outcome that we had originally sought with the traditional cryptocurrencies for eradicating the current corrupt financial sector. But either way, people are now seeing the potential of the money made in Ripple. So the monetary gains possible for Ripple have shifted the public's interest in not necessarily eradicating corrupt financial systems, but in just making money for themselves. And that's what has driven Ripple's popularity amongst consumers and the general public, as well as driven its popularity with the banks, because the banks themselves, again, are looking to save money or make more money by using this system. So in the heart of the war, I feel like we might have Ripple versus Bitcoin and all the other altcoins. That potentially could be a cartoon show I would watch on Sunday mornings. Either way, let's move back. We basically had used the CEO interview to speculate at where we would be if the Ripple price had an influx of $27 trillion. That's a lot of money to move into Ripple. We know that $27 trillion moving into Ripple sounds very unlikely, and obviously it would put Bitcoin at the current ratio it's at astronomically high numbers near the $100 trillion mark. But pretend that that's not the case, and possibly Bitcoin doesn't need to have $100 trillion in it, because Ripple is going to SERP Bitcoin and take #1 position, then this will not be a reality. We don't have to worry about Bitcoin's relationship to market cap right now. We're just going to think about this absurd prediction of $27 trillion moving into Ripple. So we have $27 trillion going into Ripple at a dollar right now, with $44 billion, and with 40 billion XRP, Ripple would have to be $600 a coin for the market cap to be 27 trillion. So 27 trillion in Ripple would be $600 a coin if there's a billion more added. $600 Ripple at 40 billion XRP is the $27 trillion market cap. That's pretty crazy, but what would that mean for you today? For you today, we already did on my last video, the daily update, we just imagined if you had $140 and you put it into Tron or IOST, and then if those coins went to $10, you would make $28,000. Let's say you had the same amount, $140, and you bought into Ripple today at this great deal of $1.14 a coin, and then that 122, let's say that the coins go to $600 a coin, you, sir, would make $73,000 on a $140 investment. That's honestly a little better return than the Tron deal, the Tron speculative investment. So $140 today, looking to push you into the $73,000 return on investment, as long as, you know, a cool $27 trillion moves in. No big deal. This is so absurd, first off, that it's unbelievable to imagine people thinking this is going to happen. But again, the banks, you know, could do it. They could move all their money into the X Rapid system instead of the X Current system, and then they could purchase enough Ripple to create crazy demand, and maybe this happens, but maybe it doesn't. And maybe this $27 trillion that you thought was going to flood into maybe this $27 trillion you thought was going to flood into Ripple. What if it does flood into Ripple? 27 trillion floods in, but then it's obviously going to move right back out, because it's just a cross-border solution payment system. So 27 trillion in and 27 trillion out. So maybe that's a reality, and Ripple's not going to go above $1. You know, you really don't know until you start to see how those bank systems work with the X Rapid and X Current solutions, and how much the bankers are going to buy of XRP or hold of XRP, how much liquidity they want, blah, blah, blah. What we do know is that there's no guarantees. Ripple could potentially not offer those kind of returns at all. It could just be fluctuating up and down, 27 trillion in, 20 trillion out. Maybe we see Ripple stabilize at like $4 and then $5, and then you put it in at $5 and it goes back to $1. You don't know. I don't know. But let's say that you put $140 into Bitcoin right now. So you'd have a 0.01377 of Bitcoin. Let's say Bitcoin goes to 50,000, 40,000, like the Bitcoin investors said. Your $140 would be $550. That sounds more reasonable. That sounds like a reasonable return. $140 in, you'd make about $400 inside the year. That's pretty good return, honestly. If you're expecting to make $73,000 on a $100 return from Ripple, that's a pretty cool bet. I'd take it. You know, why not? In the other video, I said I've spent $140 on some pretty ridiculous stuff before in my life. So at this point, why not just spend $300, buy $140 worth of Ripple, and you only got 140 bucks. Somehow figure out how to make 140 bucks happen twice and buy $140 in Ripple, $140 in Bitcoin, and just you double, just see what happens. You know, split your bets, split your odds, double your odds. I don't know. I'm not a gambler. I don't know what that means. Tron with their Tron Dogs, a TRX coin. Maybe you put 140 bucks into there, and then what is that? All in, you've got like $600 invested. Pretty serious investor moving up the chain. Maybe add another zero. Maybe put 1,400 into each one. Again, this one, I don't know why I circled it. It's pretty high right now, actually. Don't invest in that one. Maybe move that investment over to Stellar if you're going to do that. Unless you're into this split that's happening, or the fork that's happening. I don't know. I just circled it because it was right there. Honestly, there's some better coins than Litecoin. Stellar's pretty good. They got this new proof of stake algorithms coming out. We're going to talk about that in another video. But anyway, this video is supposed to be about Ripple. Speculating about 27 trillion moving in. Does it move in and stay there? Does it hold the liquidity? Do we get to see 27 trillion stay in Ripple? And what does that mean for the price? Is it going to stay at $1 or $2 and just keep pumping and dumping until everyone's money's gone and there's no more money to put into Bitcoin and there's no more money to put into Neo or TRX? Is that a reality, or is Ripple going to blow up? 27 trillion is going to dump in. This market cap's going to explode, and all of a sudden we're going to have $600 Ripples, and then everyone's going to be rich, rich, rich. Which one do you think is going to happen? Tell me in the comments. Thanks, guys, for watching this video. I hope you learned something, had a good time, or at least hate me with some kind of disdain. I will never know. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Don't forget to click subscribe, click the like button so I know you guys are supporting these videos. And as always, have a great day. Till I see you next time.
Brought to you.